Now, we all know the future is digital and we need to spend a few minutes on the latest information. There is a concept of services that could be digitalised, digitalisable, meaning could be delivered online through the internet. And over time, we are seeing a very big shift in that direction. And we've certainly seen that during the policy response to the COVID-19 pandemic, where with people movement heavily restricted, we have moved to providing services much more in digital format, including, for example, education, including, for example, entertainment. We are downloading apps, all of us, every day as we cease to buy goods that we have to go and pick up from somewhere because freight isn't moving very well at the moment across borders either. Now, our digitalisable services, which is a global concept understood and defined particularly by UNCTAD, they grew 115% in the 10 years from 2005 to 2015. They grew very rapidly from a very low base. And today, they constitute nearly US dollars 20 billion, roughly a quarter of Australia's services exports that are considered to be digitalisable. But you can see that the growth happened very early on in that decade. They doubled from 2005 to 10. So why? What's wrong here? And there are a number of policy factors contributing, constraining the growth of the digital transformation. There are many fewer promises in the WTO, binding commitments in the WTO to liberalise trade via online supply mode 1 delivered by electronic means. Many fewer commitments than there are for the other modes via commercial presence or temporary movement of people. We also know that digitalised services are highly dependent on cross-border data flows, and there is a very major fragmentation going on currently today in many jurisdictions where barriers to cross-border data flows are being introduced, obviously impacting on our ability to export digitally. We can actually look also, only very recently, only a couple of months ago, were we able to ask the question, not what do we export that is digitalisable, but what do we actually export of digitalised services? So the Australian Bureau of Statistics undertook a study recently and found that in 2016-17, 5.7% of Australia's GDP was generated by digital activities. Now that might not seem a very large figure. It's actually not that different from research that has been done in the United States shows it's just under 8% for the United States. And this information is not yet available for many economies at all. But based on that figure, this would imply that only about US dollars 9 billion of that potential 20 billion is actually being digitalised and exported digitally. And the policy point here is that the Australian Services Roundtable members do not think that that gap is going to close without active policy support to reduce the barriers to digital trade. We also have a Digital Services Trade Restrictiveness Index produced by the OECD, and it has been precisely showing us that over the last 3 years there has been a global trend upwards in restrictiveness in this particular index. This is a great shame when we know that the digital technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are precisely offering the world the best possible opportunity for productivity growth and increased living standards. The policy agenda here is all about interoperability of our regulatory regimes. It's very different from the process of negotiating down tariffs at the border for trading goods. It's about making sure that businesses can connect on the internet.